Let's talk about some sustainable nutrition changes that you can make right now. As I've mentioned in previous videos, fad diets are not sustainable because they're way too rigid and they don't give you tactics of what you could do with your nutrition that you would be able to do lifelong. So here's some pointers. Number one, set a goal to try to really front load your calories. I've talked about this in tons and tons of videos, so you've probably heard me say this, but you really want to try to get the majority of your food in earlier in the day. The reason you want to do that is because when you don't do that and you try to save up your calories for later in the day, you end up eating more. Because if you hardly ate a lot of food up until, 3 o'clock, then you're going to find yourself snacking on sweets and processed foods, and then you're probably going to eat dinner and then have even more snacks. And effectively, you probably ate more in that day than you would have had you just eaten them earlier in the day. So try to front load your calories. A good goal could even be try to get 75% of your intake in before dinner. What that's also going to do is help better regulate your hunger and your fullness cues throughout the day. It's going to help prevent cravings for carbs and sweets in the afternoon and evening, and it's going to give you more sustained energy. Ultimately, food is fuel, right? And we need that fuel earlier in the day to fuel us for what we're gonna do all day. You don't need all of that fuel at the end of the day when you're probably just winding down to go to bed. So try to front load your calories. Number two, and kind of on that same note, but just a little different, is if you're planning to eat out for dinner or go to a friend's house or something like that, don't manipulate your day earlier to try to save up or plan for that, right? Because on the similar note of front loading, what that's going to do is you're going to end up eating a lot more out or at a friend's house than you would have had you just had your normal day of a breakfast, lunch, snack, etc. So if you're going to eat out, have your breakfast, have your lunch, don't manipulate things, and then just eat your dinner meal out. Number three is really trying to make protein the star of every meal. If you try to make protein a big portion of your plate at all of your meals and then fill in with veggies and carbs, you are going to be a lot more sustained in terms of hunger and fullness and with cravings throughout the day. There's some research to show that when you don't eat enough protein, you're more likely to crave carbs and sweets. A good rule of thumb is going to be to aim for about palm size of protein if you're a meat eater. This is usually about 3 ounces or a little bit more, which is a good rule of thumb at all meals. Now, if you are not a meat eater, aim for 2 plant-based sources of protein on every plate. So for example, instead of doing just tofu, do like tofu and beans, or do, chickpeas and beans. Or you could do, if you make like oatmeal in the morning, make it with soy milk and with nuts, and a good amount of nuts instead of just one or the other. So 2 plant-based sources of protein at every meal. Another good rule of thumb, number 4 here, is going to be trying to add vegetables anywhere that you can, right? That could be throwing in some veggies in with an egg scramble in the morning, or even on a sandwich putting lettuce and tomato if that's the only veggies that you can get in. But trying to put in vegetables anywhere you can. If you're someone who doesn't like vegetables, try to sneak them in. Blend them into like a pasta sauce or blend them into a smoothie. A trick there is you can put spinach in a smoothie and it actually really won't change the flavor. All it's going to do is make it a little bit of a different color, but you probably won't even taste the spinach. But try to add veggies wherever you can. Now, those 4 things are some really tangible nutrition changes that you could make and probably be able to do lifelong. Those are some examples of what I want you to aim for anytime you're trying to make nutrition change. You can take baby steps as well. Do one of these things at a time if you need to. What I don't want you to do is go through your kitchen and throw out all of this food that you think is bad. When you try to do those overhauls, then of course your body is going to rebel against the diet and you're going to find yourself binging on all of those foods that you threw away. Think of what you can add to your days instead of remove. Adding vegetables, adding protein, adding more exercise, or whatever it might be, is going to be so much more realistic and something that you actually enjoy sticking to, as opposed to creating all of these rules of what you can't do. Thanks for being here, guys. Do not forget to like and subscribe. We're so happy that you've been with us. Feel free to leave any questions that you might have in the comments.